Hey everybody, Davey here from Davey's World Fishing. Today I'm going to talk about fishing a wake bait. One thing everybody loves is a huge topwater explosion. Check it out. Now, if you aren't familiar with fishing a wake bait, what it is it's a topwater style bait. They actually float and they work right along the surface. A wake bait does just that. When you're fishing that thing and you're retrieving it back, it stays right on the surface and it creates a giant wake as it comes off the bait. You can pop it, you can go real fast, straight retrieve, whatever you'd like. But in general, a wake bait, right in the title, creates a large wake coming back to you, either from the boat or from the shore, and they're generally gonna be fished in open water. Behind me here, I've got a little bit of structure. I've got some moss and weed right up along the shoreline here, out about the first 12, 15 feet. Then you got open water past that. So fishing these, you're gonna fish them in open water just because it is on the top and they've got some big treble hooks, if you can see there. This happens to be the Fish Lab bio-shad wake bait. It's the smaller version. But you're gonna make those nice long casts and you're just gonna retrieve it back. A good thing to do on this is make nice long parallel casts to the shore or parallel to any kind of structure. Here from the shore, it's gonna be a little bit more difficult, but you wanna make a nice, like I'm gonna do here, make a nice long cast down that side and work it as close to that weed line or moss line as you can. A lot of times those fish are gonna be hunkered down inside that structure, either under rocks or under sticks or stumps or weeds or moss. Maybe they're bedded up, but this is gonna be up on the surface. So when they see this big profile, they're looking up, they're gonna see that dark profile and that large wake coming off of it. A lot of times it looks like a wounded fish, a wounded shad or a trout or whatever bait you happen to be using. That's the profile it's gonna give off, and that's what those fish are going after. Of course, they wanna load up on their big protein diet, so they're gonna go after that bait, big topwater explosion, set that hook, and you are good to go. Now let's take a little look at actually fishing this thing. I'm gonna make a couple casts here and we'll talk through it as we go along. Now, as I mentioned, fishing that wake bait, you just wanna make nice long casts and a nice straight retrieve. You can do, as I said earlier, you can pop it, you can wiggle it, you can walk the dog, whatever you like. But on these jointed wake baits, they make a nice long S-curve right back to you, creating a huge wake. So we're gonna just make a nice long cast. Let's see what happens here. So a nice long cast, get it out past the structure you wanna fish, and we're gonna work as parallel to it as possible. So a nice straight retrieve. Right now I've got structure on the water, so I'm keeping the rod tip nice and high, but I'm gonna keep a nice straight retrieve, and that's gonna get that nice wake. I don't know if you can see that in the video or not, but it's got a nice big V wake coming right off of that bait. You can go nice and slow, give it a little pause every once in a while. That bait's gonna sit right up along the surface, and you can just work it right on its way back. Give it a little wiggle to start, give it a little pop if you like, but just a real slow retrieve. And then when you get to your structure, like I'm in that moss, now go ahead and bring that thing back as quick as you can so you don't pick up all of the moss. That's what you end up getting when you're fishing a wake bait around structure. Of course, go through, pick off all the junk, and then just start right over again. Get all that moss off of there. Got lots of it. But it's a great open water bait, and it's great around that structure. So when you're fishing this and you happen to be fishing around moss, you're gonna get this a lot. What that means is you're in the right zone. These are also great, like in the boat, if you're in the middle of the lake and you've got some breaking fish, you got some bait that's up on the surface busting around. It's a great bait for that as well, but it is also great around this structure. Here it happens to be moss. We're coming into late spring, and you got a lot of that moss that's coming up to the surface. Bait's nice and clean now, so we're gonna go ahead and make another nice long cast. This time I'm gonna go a little bit more straight out here. Just a nice long straight cast, and we're gonna slow retrieve that bait back to me here. If you're on the boat, obviously you're casting towards shore and you're gonna work it out that way, but here's a little bit more open water. We happen to be in fairly shallow water here, so the deeper water is a little bit nice. At this particular lake right now, the fish are holding in that 10 to 20 foot range. They're starting to stage when they're gonna come up and start bedding. So they're up there, and when they're getting ready to bed, right pre-spawn, they're loading up on their protein they wanna feed. So a nice, straight, slow retrieve, and that's gonna make a nice big wake on the water there. Like I said, I don't know if you can see it, but it's kicking off a nice big wake. Of course, if you're fishing a bigger bait, if you're fishing that 6 or even an 8-inch or even a 10-inch wake bait from different companies, it's gonna be a bigger wake. You're gonna fish it about the same though. Nice long casts, nice slow, steady retrieve. Like I said, you can even pop it, you can work it back however you'd like, but just get that bait moving and that creates quite the wake there. Get it to your structure. If you can pop it over the top, great. We picked up just a little bit of weeds that time. Not too bad at all. But that's fishing a wake bait. Very simple, nice long cast, straight retrieve, and it creates that big wake. Very effective. Those fish will come up from deep. They'll make the explosion. And you know what? As a Southern California guy who fishes a lot of salt water, don't count these things out for calico bass. Top secret, don't tell anybody that. But I appreciate y'all checking in. Do me a favor, hit that like button down below and subscribe to Davey's World Fishing up in that right-hand corner. See you on the water.